Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are taking a seriously fascinating and honestly surprisingly dramatic journey through time. The Olympic Games, right? They stand as the absolute pinnacle of global sporting achievement. But getting to this point, it definitely wasn't a straight line. We're going to map out the incredible trajectory of the Games, tracking how they transformed from this ancient religious ritual into the massive, multi-billion-dollar global spectacle we all tune into today. It's a really complex story. You've got revival, relentless commercialization, and just totally shifting human priorities.
Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly did an ancient religious festival become a modern mega spectacle? Because, when you look at the Olympics right now, with all the massive sponsorships and the huge global broadcasting, it's kind of hard to imagine its really humble, highly spiritual beginnings. What we are really exploring here is a story of continuous reinvention. The core motives behind why we, as humans, gather to compete have shifted so drastically over the centuries, and understanding that shift, that is absolutely crucial to understanding what the Olympics actually represent for us today.
So, to really grasp this shift, we've got to start at the very beginning. Era number 1, the ancient games, which were all about religion and truce. Look at the sheer scale of history we're talking about here. Originating in ancient Greece, the games kicked off in Olympia in 776 BCE. And here's the thing. They weren't just a sporting event. They were literally a religious festival dedicated to honoring the god Zeus. And they ran successfully for over a millennium, over 1,000 years. But notice that middle date right there, 393 CE. As the Roman Empire expanded its reach, the games fell into a huge decline. They were eventually entirely abolished by the Roman Emperor Theodosius I. His specific goal? To purge pagan practices from the empire entirely. With that single decree, the Olympic flame was totally extinguished. That created a massive historical gap of over 1,500 years before the Games would ever be seen again. Wild, right?
So, you might be wondering, what did these ancient games actually achieve while they were running? Well, while they obviously provided a platform for athletic excellence, their true superpower was actually peace. Back in ancient Greece, city-states were constantly at war with one another. But the Games instituted a sacred, heavily enforced truce, known as the Ekacheria. This allowed warring factions to hit pause on their conflicts, literally lay down their arms and safely travel to compete. It was a real game changer. Let's move to and see how this builds into our second era, the modern revival, built heavily on ideals and education. So, that massive 1,500-year hiatus finally ended in the late 19th century, all thanks to a guy named Pierre de Coubertin. He spearheaded the modern revival of the Games in 1896. But, and this is a big but, his motives were fundamentally different from those ancient Greeks. He wasn't out to honor Zeus. Instead, he was driven by this totally new concept called Olympism. It was a really ambitious philosophy that tried to blend sport with culture and education. Coubertin's ultimate goal wasn't pleasing the gods. It was fostering international understanding among mortals. So the religious focus of antiquity was officially swapped out for an educational and cultural mandate. Now here's a number that might completely surprise you. 241. That's it. That is the total number of athletes who competed in the very first modern Olympic Games held in Athens in 1896. And they hailed from just 14 participating nations. When you think about the absolute behemoth the attempt is today, this remarkably small number really puts into perspective just how humble this modern revival was at the very beginning. But as we moved through the 20th century, the Games expanded rapidly, though definitely not without some massive hurdles. The Olympics faced severe disruptions. Global conflicts, like the two world wars, completely halted the event. And later on, the intense political tension of the Cold War led to devastating large-scale boycotts, like the ones we saw in 1980 and 1984. Yet, despite all these geopolitical earthquakes, the event proved to be undeniably resilient. It actually broadened its scope and appeal significantly, especially with the introduction of permanent winter sports in 1924. And that incredible resilience brings us right up to the 21st century and our final era, the era of commercialization, characterized by spectacle and soft power. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the modern Olympics represent a complex double-edged sword. The Games have undergone this seismic shift toward a professionalized, multi-billion-dollar juggernaut. Let's just impartially weigh the realities here for a second. On one hand, this commercial model has funded vastly greater athlete training standards and an unprecedented global broadcast reach. Literally the whole world can now watch. But, on the other hand, this exact same growth invites some heavy scrutiny. We're talking immense city hosting expenses, allegations of corruption, and a very real debate about the loss of Coubertin's original amateur ideals. Those ideals have largely been replaced by multi-million-pound sponsorships. Which brings us to the sheer, awe-inspiring scale of the games today. Remember that modest little group of 241 athletes from 1896? Today, thousands of athletes, representing almost every single recognized nation on Earth, unite in competition. The logistical leap from that small gathering in Athens to a planet-wide phenomenon is just staggering. And this brilliantly illustrates the dual identity of the games today. At its enduring core, it really does remain a beautiful celebration of pure human athletic achievement, where athletes push the absolute boundaries of what is physically possible. But undeniably, intertwined with that sport is a very modern geopolitical reality. Hosting the event is now equally a rigorous test of a nation's logistical capability and their soft power on the global stage. It's really as much about the host country proving its modern prowess as it is about the athletes themselves. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on. Looking at this whole journey from a sacred ancient truce to an educational ideal to a multi-billion-pound global juggernaut, has the pursuit of soft power, massive logistics, and profit overshadowed the pure human athletic achievement the games were originally built on? It's a complex question with no easy answer, for sure. But understanding the evolution of the Olympics gives us the perfect lens to think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.